Here, I appreciate it.
Please mute your microphones. I'm about to mute your microphone if you don't do it. Thank you.
Testing, testing.
Hello. Yes.
Justin, what's the thing here? Yeah, that one too. Don't. Okay.
Hello, Howard.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Good job.
Who's it, Pat?
Yeah, it's Pat.
Okay. You and I are on. Yeah.
And I think Robert Maskey is user 2, I believe.
We got 3 participants on.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3. That sounds right. Because one of them has 2 properties, I believe.
Mm-hmm. That makes it okay. Hmm. Need to make a 7. Right.
Mr. Dink, are you here? See see Mr. Dink yet.
Yes. Look like you Dink is having a problem.
We still have a few more minutes before the meeting officially starts.
Mhm.
Okay, so Councilman Brancatelli's with us, assuming we're looking at docket 3719. Is there anything else, Councilman?
That was it. Thank you.
Okay. So Carmela,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we move that docket up to number 1.
Maurice, in the PowerPoint presentation, we're gonna start with document 83421.
Look good.
Okay, thanks.
I'm gonna make that. You do that. They don't say how much. Don't put a whole lot of nothing in it.
Eric, you are for docket 83521.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, hi, this is Bridget McCready with Deanna Property Management. I'm for the City of Cleveland web meeting.
What docket is that?
What?
What's your docket number?
It'll be the same when I'm on 3521.
Okay.
Okay.
Mute your phone until you hear your docket number call. When your docket number is called, you will state your name for the record and be sworn in.
Okay. Okay. Here.
1 second.
More coffee.
We'll get started in a few more minutes, trying to get some technical issues straightened out first.
Carmela, this is Robert. I'm on.
Okay. I still don't have Mr. Dink yet.
It took a long time to connect.
Okay.
Made it. We have everybody, Carmelo?
I don't see Mr. Dink. I'm trying to give him a call now.
It showed him coming on. I may not see him, but he did show up.
Oh, there he is. I see him now. Okay.
Okay. All right, do we have everybody on now?
We have everybody accounted for.
Okay, so, all right, Joe, we're gonna start with docket 83421. We have Councilman Brancatelli on. So that'll be our
Okay.
first docket, just so that you know.
Thank
Okay,
you.
yes. All right, so we'll get started. Cleveland Board of Building Standards and Appeals is now in session. In compliance with notification requirements of Ohio's open meeting law and section 101.021 of the codified ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions are under the purview of the City of Planning Department, conducts its meetings according to Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by voice vote. Abstentions from any vote due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the taking of any vote. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting has the opportunity to be heard, we ask that you use the raise hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raise hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile version and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finishing speaking, please lower your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon again and mute your microphone. We will be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located on the bottom of the WebEx screen. So we ask that all callers mute until we start.
And let me just make a note that anybody that is on the phone, you use *6 to unmute yourself.
Okay.
How do we mute?
Oh, he wants to know how you unmute. Is that
*6.
*6 again? Okay. All meeting activities being recorded by way of the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed by way of YouTube. All requests to speak on a particular matter by way of our website and email have been considered. We have also received emails from those who have provided written comment on a particular matter. Ms. Austin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we could verify that it is being live streamed.
It is.
Thank you, sir. And then the city, as we do each time, would object to the use of the chat function due to public records issues and the posting of the requirements on the Ohio Supreme Court website. Thank you.
Thank you. Carmelo, we call the roll.
Mr. Maschke,
Here.
Mr. Bradley,
Here.
Mr. Dink,
Here.
Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, sounds good. We'll start with the first docket, which is A3421, 3719 East 55th Street.
Application and fees are in order. Notice of violation is exterior maintenance dated June 7, 2021. Appellant is requesting for time to complete abatement of the violations. Present for the hearing, Tom Vanover, Building and Housing, Patricia Ashton, Law. With the appellant for docket A3421, please state your name for the record.
Dale Rodick.
Okay, all those going to be giving comments, please raise your right hand, solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Okay, Councilman, do you wish to speak in the beginning or at the conclusion?
At the conclusion would be fine, please.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, Mr. Reddick, is it?
Rodick.
Rodick, okay, you can go ahead and begin.
Yes, a lot of progress has been done on the properties, just, one other issue need to be done. I was requesting a estimated 30 days to complete all the rest of the violations.
Okay, Mr. Vanover.
Mr. Chairman of the appellate, do you live in this home? Mr. Rodick, do you live in this home?
No, it's a rental property.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, as I always do, I would like the record to note that this is an investment property, and as such, there's a requirement to, treat it like a business and keep it maintained before the city is required to show up and cite the violations. That being said, we don't object to 30 more days to correct the violations.
Okay. So any comments from the board members?
No?
There's no comments. Motion is in order to grant 30 days.
Mr. Chairman, do you want to hear from the councilman?
Oh, I do. Yes, I do. Thank you. Councilman, please proceed.
Thank you. I also support our CBO statement around keeping these properties maintained. I also support the additional 30 days. Also to note that Mr. Rodick has a number of investment properties, and the same would hold true for all the properties that he has. I know he has another one on the docket today as well. But and the other note was that he needs to get current with all of his rental registrations. He has a couple properties that are delinquent in the rental registrations, and would recommend also that we get a lead safe clearance at some point as we're going through rental inspections on rental properties. But support the 30 additional days to get these repairs made to improve the exterior of this property.
Okay, so that includes all with the violations that are cited, which is what is in our purview to be able to do. So we're looking at like a September 6th date to complete all the violations associated with this motion.
Mr. Chairman, Patty Aston had her
Oh,
hand
hold
raised.
on. Let's hear from Ms. Aston.
Thank you. Just as a discussion, as it relates to the lead safe clearance, that does have a phased implementation according to the clear language of the code. And so I'm not sure based upon the zip code where that would fall. But I just want for the record that that code as enacted does have a 2-year implementation. Thank you.
Okay, so we're looking at a September 6th, 2021 date. So we got a motion.
So move.
Okay, moved by
Second.
Mr. Pedley.
Second.
Okay, second by Mr. Dank. Call the roll.
Mr. Maskey,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley,
Yes.
Mr. Dank,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Yes. Okay, thank you. I think you have another case on, so you're gonna have to stick around. We're going back to the top of the docket. So we got, We're looking-
84421.
yes, 4421. Who do we have on? Okay, so we open docket 4421, 2900 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard.
Application and fees are in order. Notice of violation is electrical. Issued on July 16, 2021. Appeal statement received July 19, 2021. Asking for a variance. Present for the hearing is Tom Vanover, Building and Housing. Patricia Ashton, Law. With the appellants for docket A 4421. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Nick Agresta. I'm representing Tri-County Electric. I'm also with Brian Blair and Adam Andre, all with Tri-County Electric.
Okay, all those giving testimony solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, so help you God?
I do. I do.
Okay, we'll go ahead and hear from you and see what you have to say about this issue.
Mr.
Patty
Chairman, if I
McGinty with
may.
her hand raised.
Oh, hold on, Miss Austin.
Thank you. Preliminarily, and perhaps Mr. Vanover can clarify, I'm sure he's been in contact with the appellant, but the copy of the appeal statement that I've received, it is unclear if this is a formal objection to the notice or a request to, for additional time. So I'd like to clarify that for the record to clear up the record. Thank you.
Okay, well, let's tackle that first then. Can you go ahead to the appellant and clarify what city's council is saying?
We're requesting an objection to the inspection that we were given.
Okay, this is an objection, Ms. Austin. Do you have another comment?
Thank you. Well, if it's an objection, I'd like to ask him to state the basis for his objection so the city could be able to respond, so that Mr. Vanover could fully, we can get the testimony into the record to defend the city's actions. Because we do have a first administrative burden to show that it was properly done. And so if he's objecting to the actual inspection, I believe there's permits out there, although it does state a permit is required and drawings are required. So I think that maybe that will come out through the background. I just want to make the record clear. I'd like to know the basis of that objection.
Okay, can you say what you're citing as a basis for your objection?
Sure. Yes, the drawings and permits were pulled for the project. This is located at Benedictine High School. They are upgrading their main electrical service for their entire campus with 3 800 amp main services. We followed the plans accordingly that were sent in by an engineer and approved by them as well as the city. And the violation that they are requesting we failed on is the service disconnecting means not being accessible, whether outside or at the point of entry. Now the pictures that we had submitted, you'll obviously identify the lower level of the structure of the utility room that we installed the new means of service for them. The code identifies, a readily accessible location for the disconnecting means. And with some of the drawings, I know it might be difficult to see without being in person, but the only way to install this proper equipment is in the location that we installed it, which is readily accessible. If you look at the one set of drawings, the point of entry, we only had about 4 feet of entry space to enter the basement of the facility, which we were not able to install the equipment in that area due to height restrictions or space that is given to us. So this was the most readily accessible area for us to install this equipment, which has main disconnecting means attached to it as according to the drawings.
So, Mr. Chairman, to Patricia McGinty, Aspen City Cleveland Law Department for the City of Cleveland Building Department, to the Mr. Chairman, to the appellant, is that description mean that it is where they say it's supposed to be on the plans, or because of the conditions, they had to be somewhere other than where it is on the plans?
Come on, I gotta go.
So to the appellant, does that mean that they are located where the plans say they are, or in a different location?
They are perpendicular to the location of the plan. So instead of being on the wall where that arrow is pointing, it is perpendicular to it. If you go to another drawing, if you could click over, yeah. Sure. So you see that where that arrow is pointing. So basically, the first drawing showed the existing set of gear. We just mounted it perpendicular instead of in the existing location. So it's a matter of a 10-foot distance, like 10 to 12 feet of distance away from where the drawing shows, just to means and methods of the equipment and space available to us.
So that means they are not to the approved plans, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to clarify that that's a condition the board needs to know, and so that we can correctly defend our actions. You've objected to it, but our position remains that I believe Mr. Vanover will state it, and I don't want to speak for Mr. Vanover, so I will defer to him. Thank you.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that you just changed this to be in a location where you can handle it. And so we have to get what the city's saying about it. I believe we're talking about it being outdoors as far as a cutoff. I believe that's what the conversation is. I'll let Mr. Vanover pick up from there.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman, there should be as-built drawings provided at the conclusion of the project, which reflects things like this. And it's a document. It's an as-built drawing.
So
If
if I
Mr.
can,
Vanover could give testimony though, because
That would be
there are
awesome.
approved plans.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Mr. Vanover.
so Mr. Chairman, the concern is as much that so the argument, the appellate's argument, is that we approved a set of plans that did not require a disconnect outside the building, and but at the same time, it was not built to those approved plans. The violation notice was written because there needs to be a means of disconnect, and I want to just keep on this picture right here. There has to be a means of disconnect that is readily available. This service comes, the feed comes into the building unprotected for 35, 40 feet before it hits these three 800 amp pieces of equipment. This view right here is what the appellant is considering readily accessible. So there's 40 feet of cable, understand, that is unprotected, of service cable that runs through this basement under whatever that stack of pipes is and around the 5-gallon bucket of whatever and through the through this basement. The violation notice was written not specifically for failure to follow the approved plans, but this is a hazard. The drawings, as indicated by the appellate, aren't always, unless you see them in person, of course, and this disconnect may very well be shown on the equipment that was put in another place, but our position is that it's a hazard. The code requires it readily accessible. It's got to be either outside the building or just as you come in the building. In an event, this is the gauntlet that one would have to go through to disconnect, to finally hit the means of disconnect for this equipment. And if you can flip back to the equipment, I think it's the next photo up or behind it. And I will also state that there are actually two notices of violation that are issued, because there's another one for no permit for the removal and then reinstallation of a 13,200 volt piece of equipment that was removed and replaced with no plans and no permit for it. And once a piece of equipment is removed, it requires a permit and a plan approval to be reinstalled. So our position is that it's not readily accessible to the code. I don't even know what that stack of those pipes running under those stairs are. We expect that there should be a disconnect on the exterior of the building to where in an event, in an emergency, they can be disconnected from the exterior without having to go through this gauntlet of stuff in this basement.
Okay, so we'll let the appellant respond at the moment to what the building inspector has said.
Okay, so regarding permit for the removal of the existing gear has not been removed. Nothing has been powered up or transferred of power to this point yet. That is not in our scope of work or in our contract to do so, other than the new 800 amp gear that has been installed. So you're saying the disconnects are to be mounted outside, so there is no structure above this basement. This is basically in those that stairwell that you see in the picture is not going to be there either. So the disconnects are going to be potentially about 300 feet away in a grassy area where the transformers are located if you're requesting them to be outside. The drawings, I believe I submitted a set of drawings that identify where the transformers are located on the property. I don't know if you could change the picture for us.
Sure. What slide do you need me to go to?
Go back
It's a
to the
drawing
first one.
I'm sorry.
Let's just start at the beginning. Start at the beginning, please.
In some instances, you can use a fireproof 2-hour enclosure for the conduits.
That's the first slide.
You can't let them come in without and be exposed without a disconnect.
Maurice, I think it should be one more slide with some drawings on it.
Oh, there you go.
You know,
So yeah, there's two.
That's okay. So now we have the first slide.
Okay, this is the one that points out the disconnect.
So yeah, if you go back one more.
That's the first slide.
Yep, go back to the second. Yeah, right there. So that shows you where the transformers are located, approximately 300 feet away from the gear itself. And this is obviously our objection. There's no disconnecting means identified on the drawings outside in any way. So if you're requesting this, I'm pointing it out that the disconnects are 300 feet away from this potential gear.
Okay, so they are outside.
The transformers are outside.
Right, but you have a disconnect there, which I'm thinking would take care of it, but let's see what Mr. Vanover says.
So, Mr. Chairman, I understand the point that that they're making, but I mean, the code clearly says readily accessible location. The service disconnecting means shall be installed in a readily accessible location, either outside of the building or structure or inside nearest the point of entrance of the service conductors. All right, so how that gets done, you know, we're willing to entertain. He keeps saying that it's 300 feet away. Is that a problem? That sounds safer in the event that there is an issue with the equipment. But furthermore, I mean, at minimum, it has to be at the nearest point inside where it comes in, not 40 feet of exposed cable in a room full of junk, which is exactly what we've got here.
But it doesn't identify an exact footage. This is the nearest point of accessible means to the gear that is issued.
And that can fit in that space.
Right, that'll fit in the area that we can put it in.
Mr. Chairman,
Is this where it comes into the building?
I suggest,
Right at this location?
I suggest we review this. I'd have to get electrical opinions. I can get electrical opinions on this and maybe reframe the objection the city has.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm going to object to that by the board. Although I understand you can do your research, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Dank, you don't advocate for either party. I think we need to flesh out a little bit more between. It sounds like there's an objection to the city's interpretation of what the nearest point under the.
No, I don't think there is. And if we can finish the discussion,
I think they object to your.
If it comes into the building, if it comes into, does it come into the building at this switchgear? Or
The
do you run cable, do you run wire for 40 feet before it gets there? That's the question.
Correct, yeah, approximately 40 feet. There is conduit and wire installed into the building that before it
Okay.
actually lands into the gear.
So why isn't there a disconnect where it comes into the building?
There's no room for it. This
There's
is the
no room
only
for
point of
I'm not
entry to
talking
the
about a
building.
disconnect. I'm not talking about an integral disconnect as part of the equipment. I'm talking about a service disconnect. There's nowhere to put, so that's where we disagree, is myself and my electrical inspector believe that there is a place to put a disconnect, though it may not be the equipment disconnect that you have. You can still put a means of disconnect when it comes into the building 40 feet away as the code requires. And again, even if this does get tabled, I want to make the point clear that our position is that this is a hazard.
It's against code.
Mr. Chairman, we had Patty with her hand raised again, and I believe the applicant.
Mr. Vanover hit the nail on the head of what I was going to ask. Thank
Oh, okay, you're all set?
I believe the
Okay.
applicant is asking to speak again.
Sure, yeah, go right ahead, sir.
You gotta unmute your hand.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There you go.
Good morning. This is Brian Blair with Tri-County Electric. I wanted to respond back to the distance that the conduit was ran. So if you go to the one picture that shows the pull box and the feeders coming out of the pull box and starting to,
I don't know if you could see that or not. Keep going back.
so,
One more.
okay.
That one?
So, yes, sir. So that distance that from out of the top of that pull box to where the conduit's 45 up through the metal grates that are above your head that you can't see in that picture is about 12 to 15 feet. Now, on top of that metal grate where those conduits go up through, that structure is being removed, and all that is going to be encapsulated in concrete. So in all reality, you will only have 12 to 15 feet of EMT traveling through that space that will be exposed. The reason why the new MDP is not in place where it shows on the drawings is because that gear is literally too large to fit in that space. That ceiling space where you see the existing MDP, that is only like, I don't know, how tall is that, you guys?
Maybe 7 feet.
Okay, 7 feet. The other gear is another foot taller than that. So where we have the MDP is where that ceiling steps up. So we literally put it to the closest interest of the cable coming into the building, the service coming in. Now, with that being said, we understand what the code states, and we did what the code states. As far as disconnects means, there's no disconnect means that is on the drawings. We did it per drawings, and now we're being held to different requirements.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would object
because
you didn't do it to the drawings. The testimony's already been given that you didn't do it to the drawings. Okay? And I will state my position, you're not held to something different. This is a hazard. We believe this is a hazard. And we're inspecting what's there. And, based on the project at hand, what's being removed, what's gonna, right now it's 40 feet away. So I don't know how 40 feet, and I'm not clear on how 40 feet gets to 12 feet. My inspector has communicated that it's 40 feet away. Your folks have communicated that it's 40 feet away. How we lost 28 feet, I'm not sure how that works. But I will state that you didn't do it to the plans, and at any rate, and it is a hazard because it's not in our position is it's not in a readily available location.
Okay, what I want to do is have any of the board members that want to make a comment, go ahead and do so. Raise your,
Have we had any?
Patty Aston again.
comment.
Mr. Dank?
Mr. Chairman, before you hear from the board, if I could just pull some up for legally for the city. They did make an objection to the violation notice. The testimony, the evidence, the photographs, the plans, Mr. Vanover's statements, appellant's own statements make it abundantly clear that the code, that this is not to the code, and that it was not to the plans. Mr. Vanover has particularized and concisely stated why this is a hazard. And so the city's position remains upon completion that the violation notice was correctly issued and must be upheld for the safety. Thank you.
Okay.
And
Okay.
they did not ask for a variance, which I believe according to Mr. Vanover, would object to as a hazardous basis as it is. But there is nothing here but an objection. And again, the code, they are not being held to something different standard than what the code requires. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Dink?
Is the engineer that did the plans have a comment? I'm surprised he isn't speaking to this. There's a stamped drawing with the stuff on it. And if he made a change, they have to protect that circuit. But Mr. Vanover is correct. They have to protect that service. If it comes into the building, it can be in a fireproof enclosure till it gets to the panel. But they have to protect it. And it is a hazard. I don't think we're going to vary from the decision that it's against code, and the code is a safety feature. In this instance, they can't, the equipment can't be serviced inside the building as a hazard.
Okay, any other board members have a comment? Okay, well, let me let the appellant respond to Mr. Dank's comments.
I'm not making an official comment yet. I wanted to hear from the engineer to see what he represents as a code compliant solution if this isn't.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking him. Okay. Does the appellant want to comment?
Sure. I mean, if the engineer, obviously he's not on this conference, but let's say you want us to move forward with the disconnecting means being on the outside, are you requesting him to obviously issue new drawings identifying and sending in for approval? I know no made for this objection in any way yet, but I just want to be clear on what the next steps are if this is not approved.
I'll ask Mr. Vanover for a comment.
So, Mr. Chairman of the appellant, and I apologize, I've got a photograph of with the building above that you are saying is going to be removed. That shows.
Here, somebody's got to call back in. Oh, what, a phone? Phone? Any phone.
Damn it.
We can hear you.
What is it? What's the phone number?
I don't know.
We can hear you.
Gotta go back to the. Here it's 1415. You gotta hit outgoing.
They must not have speakers on the computer.
No.
Until they call back in.
Welcome to WebEx.
Please.
Enter your access code or meeting number followed by pound.
In the world, countless others. Read the library's mind-boggling.
So, Mr. Vanover, while we're waiting for them to check in.
Hold on. Mr. Chairman to the appellant.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of feedback.
You need to mute your computer so that we can hear you on the phone. All right, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I'm sorry, we lost your connection. We're back up, so we missed it for a couple of minutes. I apologize.
Yeah, we were able to hear you and see you during that time. So for whatever reason, you're I don't know if you have speakers on your computer or whatever. So my point was what I was making. So there's a structure that's on top of those metal grates, and you're saying that's going to be removed?
That is correct.
Okay, so is that under this permit or this plan approval?
I'm sorry, did you ask me, could you repeat that?
Yes, yes, so there is and I've got a photograph that of this structure. So there's these metal grates and then there's a building on top of it, and you're saying that building's gonna be removed?
That is correct.
Because there's a considerable amount of piping in that building. Is that also being removed?
No, so the building structure itself above is going to be removed. There is going to be approximately 2 foot above grade going to be exposed. There are steel beams. This is not on our contract. I'm just kind of telling you what the scope of the project overall is. But there are steel beams going to be installed from wall to wall, and then concrete encasing all of that. So that there's going to be basically a concrete platform or stage, so to speak, to be where the building is right now. That is above ground.
What is the final use of that?
That I wouldn't be able to tell you. We're just the electrical contractor. The school is, I don't know if they're going to be conducting, services up there or what, but it's going to be an open grassy area for the students to utilize.
So if you want to point.
So currently your feed comes through this location? Through this building?
Underground. The basement is staying. The basement is staying, but the structure above ground is getting removed.
That's where we were saying that the other 28 feet or so of conduit would be encapsulated with that concrete barrier around it. That's how I'm going only down to saying that there would be 12 to 15 feet of conduit exposed.
I think they have to encase the conduit all the way to the switch gear. You can't leave it exposed because it's not fireproof exposed.
So to Mr. Chairman, to the appellate and to Mr. Dank's comments, the code requires that a means of disconnect be provided as readily accessible. It considers readily accessible to be either outside the building or immediately inside the building. The process of fire rating or encapsulating or enclosing the pipe, the National Electric Code considers pipe and service that is enclosed in concrete or in other rated structures to the outside. The National Electric Code considers that portion to be outside the building.
Right, correct.
So just so that that's clear, the requirement still stands. I mean, it may very well be that what we've got now is part of the there's a large portion of high voltage cable inside the building without a means of disconnect. That building may be going away, disappearing. However, that's not before the purview right now. Right now, what we've got is 40 feet of cable inside a building that is unprotected and that is hazardous.
Correct. I agree.
So we could say that you should resubmit the drawings to reflect a disconnect, I would say readily available either inside or right outside the building. I think that
or they can enclose it. They can work. The engineer should get back into it and represent the solution that he thinks complies with the code.
Mr. Chairman, the matter at hand is whether or not the violation notice was properly issued and whether or not the items stated in the violation notice were to the code. There's been no request for variance. And even if there were, we would ask that you object to any variance of the code and just uphold the notice of violation.
Okay. All right. So that.
And then, excuse me. And then to speak to the other piece of equipment, testimony is that they did not, the appellate did not disconnect the 13,200 volt piece of equipment. So if we could talk, if we could speak to that, you're saying that, so if you can elaborate on that portion, so you're saying the equipment was never disconnected and never reconnected?
That's
Well,
correct. Not to date yet. Now, as far as what CPP is proposing, there is, so behind that existing gear that you see, there is a transformer vault with high voltage behind it. The goal is for that vault to be removed from CPP, and the installation of these new transformers and our new gear is replacing that gear that you see in that picture right there.
So that gear is just being utilized as a splice box.
Correct.
But that work hasn't been done yet?
No transfer of power has been done, no removal of any transformers, nothing. They are still on the current means of power prior to us setting foot on site.
Okay, so those transformers are, so they're untouched. I mean, you keep saying there's no transfer of power and there's no, but so there's the 13,200 is untouched. You haven't done anything to that.
We have ourselves, no. As far as Tri-County Electric, we have not. CPP has.
Okay, are you? I mean, you got to help me out here, or we're going to be here all day. All right.
Okay.
The electrical inspector cited for the removal and reinstallation of the 13.2. All right. So if you're not the responsible party, please walk me through what has been done and what brought her to that position to begin with.
So the conduit that you see in the picture that is closest to us, that large 4-inch conduit, that is that will hold a 13,000 volt primary conductor of some sort that currently runs through the building. That piece of conduit is being relocated. We installed the conduit for CPP, but we are not touching the high voltage. That has nothing to do with us. We are only installing the conduit from the new vault that was 300 feet away and reconnecting to the existing junction box once the transfer of power is submitted, but that is all through CPP. That is not through us.
Okay. All right, so you were contracted to run the conduit that holds the feeder for them.
Correct. It's identified on the drawing as well.
It says like this piece of conduit is identified on the drawing.
That is correct. If you go to the second, I believe it was the second picture. Right there. So below that pink, or it actually might be that pink highlight. Nope, not the pink one. It's the one directly below it. Abbey Billing Utility Primary. I'm sorry?
The yellow line below that pink highlight?
No, the pink highlight with the wording that the wording in pink says provide underground conduit for existing telecommunications. It's the sentence right below it. It says Abbey Building Utility Primary Conductors, Cleveland Public Power to intercept and extend, rework the primary. That is that conduit. That's the conduit that we installed, but CPP to extend and rework the primary from that.
Okay. Then, Mr. Chairman, based on that information, after confirmation with the electrical inspector, we'll commit to closing that notice of violation.
Okay.
But we would ask that you, in the interim, remand it to us, and on the record, I will commit to verifying the conditions that were just presented. And if all that's installed is the, and the only work that's been done is the installation of the conduit for a future CPP installation, then we will commit to closing that notice of violation, that portion of the notice of violation. But we would ask that you, uphold the notice regarding the 800 amp services and the means of disconnect.
Okay, so we do, we find that, that it was properly issued, and we uphold that, and that we're going to remand this back to the Building and Housing for any further action to be taken. Motion so in order.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Dank.
Second, Maskey.
Oh, it's second by Mr. Maskey. Okay, call the roll, please.
Mr. Maskey,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley, Mr. Bradley, Mr.
Unmute.
Dink, Mr. Gallagher.
Yes. Okay, you're all set, from the way it sounds. So you will be hopefully hearing something from them within 2 weeks, the way it sounds. Okay, thank you very much.
Wait, I have a discussion. So I can make sure that the verbiage on the resolution is clear and for myself and the court reporter. So the violation notice was not properly issued, or
No, it was.
it was properly issued?
Yes, it was. We're upholding, yes, the notice being issued. And then the city is going to make sure everything was in order to what's being said here. And then it's remanded back to them to finish it out. So that's basically. That's
Carl,
basically
Can I help?
Mr. Chairman, your last remark was a good one. They're to get a drawing that shows the work. I don't know, does CPP have to submit drawings to you, Mr. Vanover?
Yes, they do, if they work within,
Okay.
in the building. Ms.
but-
Davis, just for clarification, the violation notice was properly issued. It's remanded back to the Department of Building and Housing. The Department of Building and Housing will verify testimony to close items 4 and 5 on the notice of violation.
Very good. Very good.
Want to make that an amended motion?
Yes, I suggest.
amended. I think that's what I said.
Well, you said it afterwards, though. I've moved.
Well,
that
go ahead.
Include
Go ahead
the
and-
comments regarding the submission of a verifiable drawing.
Well, they can request that, yes.
Second.
Okay, call the roll again.
Mr. Maskey,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley,
Yes.
Mr. Dank,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Yes. Okay, I believe we've
There we
wrapped
go.
this one up.
Well
Okay.
done.
All right.
Thank you.
We're gonna move on to the next docket. 83321, 2031 West 93rd Street.
Application and fees are in order. Notice of violation is interior and exterior maintenance and rental registration. Issued June 7, 2021. Appellant is requesting for time to complete abatement of the violations. Present for the hearing, Tom Vanover, Building and Housing, Patricia Ashton, Law. With the appellant for docket A 3321, please state your name for the record. Mr. Rodick,
I thought we heard that one.
Not that one. He was on
Oh, okay.
for the one after, because he's representing both.
I
the
got
one
you.
that, okay.
Thank you.
Mr.
This is
Rodick,
Patty. He's muted, but I'm just going to point out that there is a smoke detector issue, but he's still on. It looks like he's muted.
okay. Unmute yourself, Mr. Rodick.
Maybe he
What?
stepped away?
He was here.
Okay, you want to move to the next document until you come back, or?
We can, yes. Okay, we'll wait on that one. We'll open docket A 3521.
Oh, look like you logged out and logged back in.
Hello? Sorry
Are
about
you
that.
there?
Here he is. Yeah, he
Yeah,
got logged
Mr.
out and logged
Rodick?
back in.
I'm here, sir.
Okay, very good. All right, then we'll go ahead and we'll swear you back in again.
A
Solemnly-
3321, Maurice.
Yeah. Solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Okay, all right, very good. Let's go ahead and let's hear what you got.
Okay, due to the amount of violations, and working around the tenant schedules, a lot of progress has been done, and I need estimated 30 days to complete the rest of the inspection, the rest of the violations, which is, there's already like 75% done already.
Okay. Mr. Vanover.
We have no objection to 30 days, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, that's good. Let's move on. We got, we'll go ahead and motion is in order to, find that it was properly issued and also to give 30 days, which would be September 6, 2021, to take care of the violations. Motion?
So move.
Okay,
Second.
Mr. Bradley? Second, Mr. Dank?
Yes.
Okay. All right, call the roll, please.
Mr. Maskey,
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Bradley,
Yes.
Mr. Dank,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Yes. Okay, so that'll become official in 2 weeks. We'll go ahead now. We'll move on to docket A 3521, 7715 Lawn Avenue.
Application and fees are in order. Notice of violation is interior and exterior maintenance. Issued on May 5th, 2021. Appeal statement received May 20, 2021, requesting for time to abate the violations. Present for the hearing. Tom Vanover. Building and Housing. Patricia Ashton, Law. With all appellants for docket A 3521. Please state your name for the record.
Eric Garcia.
Okay. Go ahead and solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, so help you God.
I do.
Okay. All right, go ahead and proceed. Tell us what your plans are.
Preliminarily, Mr. Chairman, Patricia McGinty Aston for the City of Cleveland Law Department. I just want to note that there's a smoke detector and a carbon monoxide detector cited. Thank you.
Okay. All right, and they also have to be immediately taken care of. Let's see. Go ahead and state your case.
Okay, the tenant that used to live there, he moved out at the beginning of last month. We had a couple of techs out there to get us quotes for the renovation of the unit. We sent the owner a couple of quotes. He accepted the last one. We already started the renovation on this 2 weeks ago. The inspector was out there actually 2 weeks ago with us also. We asked him about this hearing we having today, and he said if we could just ask for a 30-day extension and in order for us to take care of everything. Everything should be set within 30 days.
Okay. Comments from the city? Mr. Vanover?
Mr. Chairman, given the testimony that the apartment is currently, or the unit is currently unoccupied, we don't object to 30 days.
Okay.
But we would we would expect that it remain vacant until all the corrections are made,
Of course.
interior and exterior, with the understanding that, for a point of information, the fact that the tenant moved out, is you need to take advantage of that and get all the work done above and beyond would be my recommendation, because with my experiences with the extensions of the eviction moratoriums, sometimes getting work done with an occupied unit is becoming impossible for many landlords.
Yes, it has.
Okay, so you heard the statement from Mr. Vanover to remain unoccupied until you finish and complete all the work. So you
Okay.
got 30 days, so that's till September 6th. We find that the notice was properly issued and ask for a motion for 30 days for September 6, 2021. Motion is order.
So
Thank you.
moved.
You've got a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Bradley.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Maskey. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Maskey,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley,
Yes.
Mr. Dank,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Yes. Okay, that concludes that docket. I think what we have now is resolutions.
Docket A 2021 has been withdrawn.
Very good. I didn't know if everybody knew that.
No, they
So
don't know.
we will not be hearing that docket. Okay, so we have approval of resolutions, docket A 2121, A 2821, A 3121, and A 3221. Motion?
So move.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Bradley, second by Mr. Maskey.
Mr. Maskey,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley,
Yes.
Mr. Dank,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Yes. Okay, approval of the minutes for July 21st, 2021. Are there any additions or corrections?
No.
Okay, motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Maskey,
Second.
Second.
second by Mr. Bradley.
Mr. Maskey,
Yes.
Mr. Bradley,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher,
Yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Dank.
Yes.
Fooled you, huh?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So if there's no further business, we can conclude. The meeting is over.
Good job. We had a real meeting today.
Yes, we did.
You know, the contractor, the